What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my top 5 reasons why I regret buying this BMW 330. Stay tuned. So if you guys are new to this channel, I recently bought a 2017 BMW 330. That's the F30 generation. I bought it as a daily driver. I have a few other cars, but I've had it for over a week now. And overall, I absolutely love the car, but there are some things that just aren't perfect. So I kind of figured I'd make this video for anybody who's looking to get a 330. Maybe just some things to consider when buying yours, because although this car is great and it has a lot of great things about it, not everything is perfect. And I feel like you should know that if you're gonna buy one of these cars. So with that said, I'm gonna be giving you 5 reasons why I regret buying it. So let's just jump right into it. So the first reason is the touchscreen, or at least lack thereof. So like I said in the intro, this is a 2017 BMW 330. In the 2017s, they did not put a touchscreen. I believe they did in the 2018. So in the 2017, this has NBT Evo 5. Don't quote me on it. I believe that's the name. That's basically this iDrive system where it's more of like these tiles over here. The newer one, which is NBT Evo 6, that one has the larger tiles. So way to tell is this one has the smaller tiles like this. So like I was saying, this one does not have a touchscreen, and although that is probably like a first world problem, it is kind of a pain because this does have Apple CarPlay. But let's say you're using Apple CarPlay and you just want to change your music or something like that, you just have to stick with this scroll wheel, which is great honestly, but it just doesn't feel like it's made for this iDrive system. So if you're trying to change your music or something like that, you literally have to scroll through all the buttons, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's kind of nice that like on the touchscreens, you can literally just go ahead and touch the play button, touch the next button, whatever it is. It just kind of feels like this is made for a touchscreen, but this doesn't have one. Same thing on the main menu, you kind of have to just scroll all the way across, which again, this kind of feels like if you have a touchscreen, you can just go all the way to the one on the right, whereas now you just have to keep on scrolling. This is definitely a first world problem. Really guys, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a nitpicky thing. And again, I believe this is only for the 2017, but regardless though, mine is a 2017. On the 2018s, they do have touchscreens and it just works a lot better in my opinion. Like my 2018 BMW X3, it works beautifully, I think. So the next thing on my list is actually outside, and that is the front bumper. So although this is a sport line, so it's not an M Sport, it doesn't have the M Sport bumper. That's not even my complaint. I understand why BMW did that. They want to distinguish between the base model and the M Sport. It's not even the design of this bumper. It's more specifically this part over here. So if you guys couldn't tell, this car is black sapphire metallic, which is honestly beautiful if you guys can see it there in the sun, although it does need some paint correction. But if you can tell over here, this bottom part of the bumper looks blue. So it's that piece right over there. Like there's a clear distinction between the black and that piece there. Now, I don't know if it came like that, if it maybe just faded and it's starting to look blue, or the person who had it before me painted it. When I bought this car was not modified at all, so I highly doubt the person painted it blue. It's also pretty young, so it's a 2017, only has about like 22,000 miles on it. So if it did fade, it faded pretty quickly. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like even if it is caused by fading, it should have taken a lot longer than just 22,000 miles and like 4 years to fade into like this blue color. Or maybe BMW just made it like this from the factory. So yeah, it might be something specific to my car, but regardless though, it's something that I really don't like. So the next item on my list is actually inside, but before I go inside, let's just appreciate my 435 for a little bit. Kind of feel like I've forgotten about this car a little ever since getting the 330 and driving it so much, but man, I still love this car. Anyways, let's go back inside. So now that we're back inside the warmth of the interior, the next thing on my list is actually the trim on this car. Now this is again something that's specific to my car, probably not going to apply it to every 330, so just keep that in mind. And that is this gloss black trim over here. Now again, just like most things, it doesn't look bad, but it just doesn't look great. So this is a pretty expensive car, honestly guys, if you think about it. Even if it's not the price that I paid, like the price that the first person paid for it, it's definitely an expensive car. And I think just getting like normal gloss black trim like this, it's just not great. It kind of just reminds me of like someone getting wood trim and then just wrapping it gloss black. Of course, that same trim carries over here, and then of course on the door handles over here. So yeah, again, it just kind of feels a little cheap to me. Overall, it is a pretty expensive car. I even have like the real leather over here, which looks really great, but then you kind of combine it with this just gloss black trim. Again, it's not horrible, but it just kind of feels a little cheap, if that makes sense. This is a good time to reiterate, I overall love this car. All these things that I'm saying are pretty nitpicky things, also things that we can change, fix, and replace, especially like the trim. Touchscreen, maybe not so much. So it's anybody who has a 330 or an F30 in general and loves their car, like, I totally get it. I love this car too. But, you know, no car is perfect, and I kind of figured I'd bring these things to your attention if you guys are thinking about getting one of these cars. But yeah, overall, I love it. If you're thinking about getting one, I say go for it. So yeah, just little nitpicky things. So the next thing I want to talk about with this car is actually in the driving experience. So as I'm sure you guys heard about the F generation, the steering on these cars is not the best. So this car even more so, at least when compared to my 435, which in its defense is heavily modified, whereas this car is completely stock. So in the E-Chassis 3 Series, the steering feels a lot tighter. It feels like a lot heavier, and overall just feels better to drive on the highway, on tight corners. Whereas this car, the steering feels very light and floaty. Now I will say the 330 is not meant to be a sports car. It is not a 335, a 340, or even an M3, but I do feel like BMW is meant to make sports sedans, and this one just doesn't really feel that sporty to drive. So of course my 435 is also from the F generation. It's an F32, whereas this is an F30. But my 435, I will say, feels a lot more stable. I have some wider wheels on it, I have coilovers on it, I have a strut bar on it. I have a lot to make this car feel a lot more planted and stable. Whereas this one, I don't. Now, obviously that means this one is modified and this one isn't. But since this one's so modified, I kind of forgot what it feels like stock. And then jumping into this car, it was kind of like, oh yeah, that's what these cars handle like from factory. So driving the modified one really just kind of emphasized what it's like to drive a stock one, if that makes sense, guys. Again, overall, this is not meant to be a sports car. Obviously, it is not an M3. It's not even a 340. But again, I still feel like BMW is known for making sports sedans. And even if it's not an M3 and it's just a normal 3 Series, I still feel like it should be a little sporty. I'm not even saying it has to be fast. I just want it to handle a little better, that's all. But just like most other things, we're gonna be fixing that. But with that said, let's go back inside to the warm. Can't wait till it gets warmer, guys. This is absolutely miserable, if you guys couldn't tell by all the ice on the cars. So the last thing on my list has to do with the cabin of this car, and it has to do more so with the sound of it. So just like a lot of modern BMWs, this car has ASD, which stands for Active Sound Design. And what that basically means is BMW pumps in fake engine noises into the cabin so the car feels louder and more sporty. A lot of people don't like it, and neither do I, to be honest. Now I know what you're thinking. I was just complaining about the car not being sporty enough, and you're like, well, they're trying to make the car more sporty, now you don't like it. The difference is steering is real. This sound, it's just fake, you know what I mean? Like, although it sounds good in a way, it's just not genuine. It doesn't feel authentic. It's sort of like BMW didn't make the car sporty and they're like, oh, we'll just give you some fake sound so it feels like it's sporty. So yeah, while driving this car, it will sound louder than it really should, in my opinion. And that would be great if that was the actual sound of the engine or the sound of the exhaust, but it's not. It's, again, just fake sound. But yeah, with that said, that's pretty much my list. Overall, guys, I love this car. I'm really glad that I bought it, honestly. It's been a great daily driver. Although it's not as fun to drive as my 435, honestly, and even the X30 M40, which surprisingly is really fun. There is a lot of great things about this car. I'm actually gonna make a video similar to this one, but about the things that I love about it. So if you guys aren't already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for that video. I will also be modding this car as well, so if you guys are into that, stay tuned for those videos as well. And I also have a 435 and an X30 M40, which I've mentioned. So if you guys like those cars, I will be making videos about those as well. But anyways, with that said, this video is pretty much done, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.